one commander. The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Scholes,
Here.
Mr. Smolik,
Here.
Mr. Ziegler,
Here.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Here.
Mr. Hamer, Mr. Lowry.
Here. Okay, first thing we have on the agenda, I believe we have a Mr. Vince Crawford with Waste Management. How you doing today, Mr. Crawford?
Good evening. Thanks for having me out. Good to see all of you again. Vince Crawford, Waste Management, 9954 Old State Road, Chardon, Ohio. Tonight, I'm just stopping out to kind of give you maybe a little bit of state of the union of Waste Management, where we're at. I've emailed council and administration the presentation I'm going to go through tonight, a little PowerPoint. And so it starts off the page one, City of Kirtland, WM always working for sustainable tomorrow. So just right there is a change in Waste Management. We're now branding ourselves as WM. And the reason for that is our company is transitioning from a waste hauling company to a company that's working for sustainable outcomes. And we'll go through some of that in the presentation, but you know, a lot of things that we're looking at are we're looking to the future and how we can bring more sustainable services to all the communities that we are working with. And so just changing that name from Waste Management to WM, difficult for me because I've been working here for 20 plus years, but still I understand, you know, the whole marketing piece of it, just like AT&T or UPS. We don't want people to look at our brand and think of waste only, because where we're going with all the other initiatives that we have. So flipping over to page 2 of the presentation, you know, we are the leading recycler in North America. And what we've done with our recycling practices now is the materials that we collect right here in Kirtland go through a plant in Akron. Currently, we're building a brand new one in Oakwood, $30 million investment. And so those plastics that we recycle, we then send off to another vendor who turns them into pellets. And then that vendor takes those pellets and turns them into the clothing that our employees wear. So we're looking at closing that circular cycle of economy of recycling. You know, how do we take it from what it was, a bottle essentially, and we now turn it into clothing that our company is utilizing. We're also doing the same thing with the plastic trash carts that you see out on the streets. We've been working with our vendor Cascade Engineering for over 30 years on the development of carts. And so to be able to take a cart, which we want to get 10 to 20 years. I mean, those carts actually have a 10-year life guarantee. We want to get maybe 20 years out of them. It has to be a really good plastic. So to take a recycled plastic and put it into that cart and make it durable enough to last 10 to 20 years is a big engineering feat. And they've, with continued work, have been able to continue to use more and more recycled product in that cart. So now it's 60%. And so every cart that we purchase going forward is going to come from recyclables that we pick up in our communities, go through our plants, and then back into a cart that's back into our communities. As you know, if I've seen our trucks running out in the streets here, all run on compressed natural gas. Those trucks are almost a zero emission. So, you know, you think of the diesel truck that used to come through here and was very loud and you'd hear it coming down the street. These vehicles are obviously much quieter, but more importantly, you know, reducing that emissions. So in this last few years, we've invested $275 million into recycling infrastructure. You know, I know probably about 5 years ago, 2018, I came out to talk about how horrible the recycling world was, you know, because China had stopped accepting recyclables and we had a downturn in the markets and we had nowhere to process these materials. On the coast of the east and the west coast of the United States, they were landfilling paper and cardboard because there was just nowhere for it to go to be processed. So as Waste Management and other companies across America have brought that infrastructure back to the United States, our materials, we're very blessed here in the Midwest. Our materials that we recycle stay in the Midwest, essentially. Our paper and our cardboard really go over to the Lima Finley area, where there's a big plant. All of our aluminum and our plastics stay right here in the Midwest to other companies that are turning those into a viable product. But the infrastructure that we've invested in, again, other companies have brought back that sustainability of the recycling program in the United States. So over the next 5 years, Waste Management will have invested $1.3 billion into our different recycling plants. And I said in City Council and administration, once our plant is open in Oakwood, which we hope will be running by the end of the summer, we'll definitely be having a tour, as you will, if you want to come through and see it and see the differences in today's technology of recycling plant. We probably get 80% of the material that goes through there we're able to capture and recycle. There's a lot of trash that's still going through there that ends up going to the landfill because it's not recyclable, but we'll be able to capture even more of the recyclable. Some of the stuff that we can't get today, it slips through, we're going to be able to capture that. So the plant is going to do a good job in improving that. So $825 million we're investing into our landfill's gas to energy plants. So now we're taking the material that goes into our landfill. As it decomposes, there's pipes that run all through the different landfills. Now we're capture that methane. 15 years ago, it was like an Olympic torch. That methane, we just burned it off 24/7. It never stopped. In the wintertime, there'd be a diameter of 30 feet that there would be no snow because we're just burning that methane off. And it was dirty gas. Well, now we're able to clean that gas up, and we're either going to pump it back into infrastructure where it's going to run our trucks, or we may be selling it off to East Ohio Gas, who's going to power homes. Or in some of our plants, like in our Geneva landfill, we actually take that gas, it runs generators, and we turn it into electricity, and then it goes back out on the grid. But those are just some of the things to let you realize what Waste Management's doing to be a more sustainable company. We don't want to just be taking that material, putting it in the landfill, and then kind of thinking that's the end of it. How can we continue to improve our sustainability? As that's what we're going forward with. And then just a couple of nice things that I always like to point out, some of the awards that we've won. Continue to win, and very important to us, is our Best for Vets employer. We really focus on what we can do for our vets. In fact, the route manager that works this area, Mike Hayes, some of you may have talked to Mike. He is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. And then actually our district manager, Chris Semrock, he is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. So again, we like to, just let communities know what kind of awards we've been winning. We also nominated, again, Most Ethical Company. And then our big, is some of you people that may be into golfing, the Phoenix Open is a big venue that we put on a Super Bowl weekend. And it is the largest zero waste sporting event. So all the material that's generated at that sporting event over that 4 or 5 day weekend, it's about 700,000 people went through it this year. None of that material goes to the landfill. It's all recycled. So on page 3, we were going to do a video on the renewable natural gas investment. It's a video from our CEO. If you guys have time to watch it, I think you'll find it extremely interesting. So I'd encourage you to take the time to watch that. Again, it's only about 3 minutes. Just a couple of simple statistics. We currently have about 2,244 customers in the city. Last year, we collected 2,288 tons of trash and 301 tons of recyclables. So we're doing about 3,000 services a week. So over the entire year, it's a big number. If you think about we're picking up somebody's trash and somebody's recycling every other week, over the course of the year, we're providing about 175,000 services to the city of Kirtland. On slide 5, some of the other piece that Waste Management's moving into is the technology side. And I think you probably all, not all, but maybe most of you, if you've signed up, if you have a Waste Management account, you should be getting your every other week notification of your recycling. So we're really moving to more of a digital platform. We want to be able to reach people, young people especially, to make it simple, but to reach people as best as possible. So our online capabilities we're moving to now, a new resident that were to move into the city of Kirtland, they don't have to call our customer service to sign up. It is no different than signing up for an Amazon account. You can go to WM.com, type in your address, and it'll walk through all the steps, and you'll see what you guys can see right there. These are the City of Kirtland contract pricing. So we have it set up, and that database is actually outlined. So all the geocoded stuff that's way beyond my technology understanding, but essentially the map of all the homes that are inside the city limits. When those residents type that in, it's going to pop up with their contracted rate. So it will set them up for their account, it'll set up for their billing, it'll set up their cart delivery, it'll let them know when their pickup day is, and they will never have to call customer service. Now, if somebody wants to call customer service, that's still there available for them, but we know that this is, the way forward moving with technology, just by going to WM.com. On slide 6. This is basically your online account, what you can see. I think this is actually just a picture of my account. Just so you see the different things if you have your own WM online account, what you can do from your phone. You can pay your bill. You can look and see when is my next pickup. You can see your service history. You can pause your service. Some people might go away for the winter, or they're going to be gone for a month of summer vacation, and the pause does need to be a 1 month minimum that you would be gone. But you can do all of that, whether it's online or you can do that on your phone with the WM app on your phone. On slide 7, this is also just going to where we can go with the technology, is you can order a cart repair. So somebody, our truck might come along one day, and after he dumps it, the wheel might break off or the lid was broken. You can go to your account and you can just go through the different prompts, and you can say, I need a new cart, and it will take care of all that online without having to call anybody. If you have a bulk item that you want to let us know, hey, this week I got a couch that's out, you can go online and you can schedule that couch to be picked up. To the right on there is the WM, the holiday alerts, and maybe a snow alert. This is one of the things I think is really good that we're doing is when you have that online account, you can sign up. How do you want to get your information? You could get it via email, you can get a text. But this text message, you can see, again, this was just my information. I think this was for President's Day. We get a lot of questions on, is President's Day or Veterans Day, which day is really a holiday that's going to affect trash collection? Well, we're going to let you know in advance. Hey, your trash collection is not going to be impacted. Or if it's 4th of July and 4th of July is on a Monday, we're not coming that day. You're going to get that notification that we're coming the next day. But where this is more important, where it really helps with the customer service is, trucks are a machine and they may break down. We don't want to break down. I think we do a pretty good job of finishing service each and every day that we're in here. But an example would be if it's 3:30 in the afternoon and the truck breaks down and it has to get towed back to the shop, maybe there's 80 to 100 customers that we didn't get to service that Monday. We are able to take just those customers, because our drivers are working through their tracking system, their onboard computers, and just those customers, we're going to send them a notification. Truck broke down today. We had a service issue. We're going to be there tomorrow on Tuesday. So the residents getting that information on their phone or their email, so when they come home and they see the cart there that didn't get dumped, they're not calling a council person. They're not calling the service department. They don't have to call us. They've already been told ahead of time. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide the best information possible. The next image is the image of what we call a smart truck, because we are now equipping our equipment with cameras. So we can see what is actually at the curb, and then we can see what gets dumped in the truck. Where this is very beneficial is with recycling. Obviously, we want to have the cleanest recycling possible. This is obviously tied to the computer, which is tied to the GPS tracking. So we know that we pull up in front of your home, these are your carts that we're picking up and that we're dumping. And now we have your email information. We're able to send you that notification. Hey, we saw, vinyl siding in your recycling today, or we saw trash bags in your recycling today. We saw yard waste in your recycling today. We want to give people information of, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, so we can do a better job of recycling. And then on page 9, the next page there, these photos are actually the photos of the carts getting dumped. And when you have your online account, you can go to your own account and you can actually see this as well. This information will be on your account. And then lastly is just to go over recycling, because the people always want to know, hey, what's going on in the world of recycling? What can we recycle? What can't we recycle? It really hasn't changed. You know, slide 10 is kind of, hey, these are the things that we see most. Still, plastic bags are still the biggest issue. We always want to make sure that recyclables are loose. We are seeing more clothing and textiles getting into the recycling, and I think some of that comes from, there was some companies that were doing a good job with curbside and have stopped doing that type of recycling, or it's just mixed messaging. But clothing is starting to be an uptick for us that we hadn't seen previously, that's getting into the recycling stream. But the last page is essentially, these are the items that should be recycled, you know, and if we just recycle these items, your plastic bottles and jugs, your paper, your glass bottles and jars, your aluminum and tin cans, those are just your stuff coming from your refrigerator and your kitchen area, and then your flattened cardboard. Those are the only items that should be going into your recycling bin. Anything else, you know, we call as wish cycling. If you think it's going to go in there and it's magically going to get recycled, it's more than magically. It's just going to keep on going to the landfill, and it's a very expensive trip to the landfill is what I like to say. And then that last link that you guys have there, how recycling works, that's another video. It actually walks you through a plant, a recycling plant, to see how that all operates. And it's actually a pretty good video as well if you have time to take a look at that. But that was my presentation for tonight. Again, just to give you some insights as to the improvements that we're doing and where we're going as a company to be the best service provider that we can for the residents of the city of Kirtland. And I obviously want to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
That's all us. That's our equipment. So we take care of switching that out for the residents, usually about a 1 week time frame. No, the residents will either call to get that done, or like I said, they can go online now and do that there as well.
Mr. Crawford, you mentioned you can suspend service. Does that also add a credit to the bill, or is the?
Yeah, so if it's a 1 month minimum time frame, and then, yeah, so when you suspend that service, then you wouldn't be charged that month's fee, whatever that would be.
Thank you.
For the power generation factor on that with the methane, obviously Kirtland and you guys still own the one over there. I can see it from my front yard. You see the, I think there's four torches over there? 3 or 4 of those burners
Yeah,
over there.
unfortunately, that one's kind of like a forgotten one because it's closed. It's so old. I think it closed in the 80s.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think we have, I think that just burns off over there.
Oh, okay. Is that something that you could hook into?
And that's-
Theoretically, how long will that methane burn? The next 1,000 years? So to
Yeah,
speak?
you know, that's a good point. That's something I could, because with that infrastructure that we're talking about, the $825 million, that might be one of those things that the company is looking to do, is go to these old landfills that really we kind of mothballed and, you know, we don't even think about anymore and capture that.
And what's the reason that they didn't do turbines? Just it was considered a dirty gas. 'Cause obviously, I always thought about that, but obviously I'm not smart enough to figure that crap out. But so is that something you could hook up to that, or you would turn into fuel for the trucks, or how does that go?
Yeah, so apparently there's different types of methane that come out, and a lot of it has like water in it and other particles. And so if you get a chance to look at that video, you'll see how big the system is for these plants. It's pretty massive. And so it's going through all these cleanings to just get the pure compressed natural gas.
And you currently have a couple of these operating then?
We have a bunch around the United States. We don't have any quite like what you'd see in that video here. But we have the electrical generation in Geneva, and our other big landfill is down in the Canton market. And that one is where we pipe it out and it goes to fuel the homes in that area.
Other question would be, sorry. Other question would be, where are we at on scrap, by way of plastic cost, cardboard cost, metals cost? Obviously, that market's come up a bit. I have a small machine shop, so I've kind of seen that a bit. I know you were in the one time we had a small increase. I believe that was that 19 you were in last?
Yeah, probably 18, 19.
18, 19, when scrap rates were down like $20 a ton for turnings or something. It's been as high as 120, 140 I've been getting, but it just did drop currently again.
Yeah, so the markets are, actually kind of bad right now, unfortunately. So, and I should say it's really the paper market is really bad right now. Last year in 2020, July 2020, cardboard value was like 185 a ton. Right now it's like $35 a ton. And same thing with paper has really dropped. And what's, when you look at your bin, most people think of, hey, there's really the most thing you see in there's a lot of plastic bottles, but it goes by weight. So paper and cardboard are still the biggest percentage because it goes by weight. Plastics still have good value, and I say plastics and metal are kind of easy. When fuel prices are high, plastic and metal prices are usually pretty good too. But paper right now, and as I've talked to the group that actually sells all that for waste management, it's really essentially a sign of the economy. If we've seen 10,000 people laid off at Amazon, that means less boxes, less shipping, and the stock market goes down, less sales of homes. That's what's driving that paper market down right now. I guess the only good thing is at least it's been pretty steady for probably about 4 months, kind of at that basement level. And in 2018, we just saw it continue to drop and drop, where the worst point in 2018, 2019, we were actually paying to get rid of that material. We're still able to recycle it, but we paid them to take it off our hands.
And the last, I guess, question I would have, plastic, you always hear about plastic bottles that up to 90% of them just end out in landfills anyhow. Could you,
Absolutely.
talk on that
And
point?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's really important thing what Waste Management has committed to is that we will no longer send any plastics outside of North America. So we'll send them to Canada, but we're not sending them to the Pacific Rim, because that's material that you see, going to these third world countries that we're recycling and is getting in the ocean and whatnot. Plastic bottles have huge value. Gatorade bottles, milk bottles, they have tremendous value. Again, this jacket here is all made from recycled plastics. So what I tell people is we don't invest $30 million into a new plant to send that material to the landfill. We're capturing and it's getting recycled.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from council? Mr. Sterling?
I suppose we'll hear it.
Ms. Snowbird, thank you for addressing your interface. That's where I, as a customer, see you most likely other than many trucks on the street. Returning as a snowbird from Florida, I noticed my account says paused. Looking for the button. Wasn't there.
Okay. Okay, well, good.
Any other questions from council or the audience? Thank you very much, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Good to see you.
Okay. Next up, we have reading and approval of the minutes of April 17th, 2023 work session. Need a motion?
Second?
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes. Okay, next up, we have minutes of the April 17th, 2023 council meeting. Need a motion?
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, next up, I would like to consider a motion to suspend the rules of council to appoint Sue Grazia, who is going to be filling in for former President Rupel.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules of council and move to the resolution number 22-R-23 into the agenda.
Second?
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, next I would like we need a motion to waive the 3 readings for 22R33. Actually, hold on a second, I need to read that out first.
Yep. I can do that. Motion to waive the 3 readings on the resolution number 22-R.
Actually, let me read it out first before that goes. Okay, resolution number 23R-33, a resolution appointing Suzanne M. Grazia as the Ward 4 councilperson of the Kirtland City Council to fill the unexpired term of Jeffrey Rupel and declaring an emergency. Now we would need a motion to waive the three.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yeah.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Next, we would need a,
Motion to declare an emergency and adopt.
Second.
Mr. Schultz. Mr. Schultz and Mr. Fenstermaker with the second. Ms. Rowley, if you would call the roll, please.
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Well, looks like Sue's approved there. She's going to need to do the oath and lead Mayor Potter. Mayor, you want the flags down there?
What's that?
You want the flags down there?
Stand back here. The flag's going back now. Here you go. I know. Old people. So this is the oath of office for Ward 4 City Council, City of Kirtland, Ohio. Repeat after me, please. I, Suzanne M. Grazia,
Grazia,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the statutes of the State of Ohio,
Constitution and statutes of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Kirtland,
and the Charter and Ordinance of the City of Kirtland.
and that I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
honestly, and impartially
honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties of Ward 4 councilperson for the City of Kirtland.
discharge the duties of Ward 4 City Council person for the City of Kirtland.
That was a little long, I'm sorry. Congratulations.
And Councilwoman Grazia, you get to come on up and take a seat then, too. We didn't get to print it up yet, so I just made one for right now.
All you have to do is say yes or no.
Congratulations, and thank you for your service. Okay, next up on the agenda would be department reports. Chief Hutton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you. The formal report has been sent out. Last few weeks have been pretty busy for the fire department. We've responded to quite a few fires in Lake Geauga County and a couple actually in Kirtland. Our promotional test, we started yesterday, the written test, and Saturday will be the oral board. That'll happen here at City Hall. And that'll be for our promotion of 1 captain and 3 lieutenants. Other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Any questions for Chief Hutton? None at this time. Chief McAllister?
Thank you, Council President. No formal report tonight, just a couple of thank yous. You're all aware of the incident we handled on the 18th, and I just wanted to express my gratitude for how the area departments came together, how the fire department assisted on the scene there, and even the service department lending their resources to get the road closed. And special thanks to the officers that were directly on scene dealing with the incident. They did an excellent job of de-escalating and getting an incident under control. Second thanks is to Bryson Durst with the News Herald. He wrote up a very nice article on the police department and our community policing initiatives, and I just want to give him a special thanks. That'll conclude my report, and I'm open for any questions.
Any questions for Chief McAllister? Thank you much, Chief. Mr. Fernaro?
Good evening, everybody. No formal report tonight. Just a couple quick updates. We did finish up our brush pickup. I'd like to thank our crews, did an outstanding job working through some terrible weather this last couple weeks. So, and again, thank the residents that followed the rules, put the brush out the right way. It made a smooth pickup for us. So I'm officially going to call and go out on a limb and say I think winter's over. So we started taking trucks apart today and getting them into summer mode, and that'll complete my report.
I take it you're gonna leave one plow on just in case?
There's always 2 plows on.
Any questions for Mr. Fernaro?
Mr. Fenaro, what's the update on the new trucks?
The one CV truck should be in at the end of this week. They had a couple issues out there. The next truck is scheduled to be in by the end of July. And then we're still waiting on a quote for the Freightliner.
Any other questions for Mr. Fernaro? Mr. Fernaro, how much, what was salt usage? What do we got for a total?
I'm going to have that for you next meeting. I'll
Okay.
have the complete winter wrap up.
Thank you much, Mr. Fernaro. Any other questions? Mr. Courtney?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Start with street program for this year. I have the bid schedule set. We'll advertise for bids starting on the 23rd of this month. Hold a bid opening on June 6th. And we will be before you with a recommendation for award at the June 19th meeting. Additionally, related to streets generally, Joe and I received the Pavement Management Group's preliminary spreadsheet of the pavement assessments for all the streets in Kirtland. So we'll be going through that, making sure everything's clean and makes sense. And they've asked us for a little additional data to be added to the sheet. So we'll get started on that. Moving on to Old Town Sewers, Shivers Construction has completed the installation of the 20-inch sewer along 306, and they've completed the directional bore from the end of Eisenhower up to Elm Street. So if it looks like they're going a little slow at the front end, it was because they were at the back end helping the driller get up the hill. So it sounds like they'll be picking up the pace there now in Eisenhower. Fox Hill Drainage, we talked about the change order during the work session. We would like that passed tonight, please. And the aqua projects, the Kirtland Chardon Road water main replacement is complete. And Monterey Avenue, we had the pre-construction meeting on the 20th, and that work has begun. And the Monterey water main's expected to take about 2 months. That's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Courtney?
Did you say 2 months from Monterey?
2 months.
When do you think you'll be able to share the assessments, the pavement assessments with council?
Well, they're just preliminary right now. So all we have is a spreadsheet. The final product is going to be, you know, all the roadway videos, all the mapping, a web-based interface, so we can go in and see all the stats on, you know, the ratings of the streets and that kind of thing. So once we have all that,
Okay.
we'll share all those links with council so they can poke
Thank you.
around and see what's what.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Courtney? I did happen to be down Monterey last week. I saw they seem to be starting to stage down there. So have they started digging yet?
They already turned the corner on 306. They're heading down Monterey.
Oh, okay, okay. So they had all the big toys out there, so. Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Next up, Eddie Eckert. Mr. Eckert?
Good evening, everybody. Yep. Gotta hold it. All right. I've been working closely with the mayor, Matt Lallo, and Maroos Development, who presented, was it last week or 2 weeks ago at Planning and Zoning. Excited to have some representatives from Maroos here tonight. But working closely on assembling the things that we need to do to discuss going forward on this project, and that's my primary things that are taking up my time at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Eckert? Okay, next up, Mr. Lobe. Any updates? Okay. Well, no bad news, I take it then. Okay. Mayor Potter. Actually, is Teresa Missouri here?
No, she's not.
Oh, okay.
And
Mayor Potter?
speaking of that, thanks to Chief Hutton for being our tech guru tonight for the audio video. Well, first of all, congratulations to Mrs. Grazia for her appointment to Ward 4 City Council person. I know Sue's been on BZA for about 8 years now, 6, 7, 8 years, and she's done a tremendous job there. Lifelong Kirtlander, and I know that she's very vested in this community. She's a successful small business owner, and I know she'll serve council very well. So thank you for stepping up, Sue, and thanks to council for getting Mrs. Grazia appointed tonight. Real quick, we had a great weekend with veterans and seniors cleanups with the Mayor's Action Network. Thanks to Councilman Lowry, Smolik, and Ziegler, Mr. Finaro, and Teresa, and tons of volunteers from the LDS Church. Also want to thank Sergeant Valenti, who was in uniform that day and was able to find some extra time during the day and get out and help us in the yards, picking up sticks, raking leaves. So really appreciate Sergeant Valenti's efforts there. I told him that maybe it's not the best idea at noon to get his shoes sopping wet when he's got another 7 hours of duty, but he seemed to not care. So thanks to him. Veterans Memorial Cleanup, I believe, is on May 20th. So I think that normally starts, say, around 8 o'clock. Is that right, Joe?
Correct. Actually, I think
Mr. Finaro, 8 o'clock.
it's been 8 or 9 in the past. I think its official start at 9, but a lot of people show up early, but I will get that.
So it's always a great day. It's a great way to be engaged and give back to the community and support the Veterans Memorial, and with the Legion and Kiwanis's help, along with the Garden Club of Kirtland. Memorial Day Parade this year is going to start an hour later than normal. It's going to start at 11 a.m. Been working with Mr. McCrory from the American Legion. Everybody will find out that day why the delayed start or the later start. But with that, in the past we've had coffee and donuts after the Memorial Day service. But this year, because it's a little bit later, the parade kicks off at 11 at the high school, ends up back here just a few minutes later. We do our service over there at the Veterans Memorial. Then after that, the Legion will be providing and cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, and I'm sorry, not hamburgers, hot dogs and sodas. So thanks to them for all they do. On that day, for the Memorial Day speaker, we're going to have Kirtland Police Lieutenant Jamie Fisher, who served in the U.S. Army. He is going to be our speaker for that day. So please, if your schedule is open, come out and support our Lieutenant Fisher and the rest of our veterans. Tonight we have the solar energy ordinance. I want to thank Mr. Godwin for all of his hard work, and Mr. Lallo throughout the last year or so, putting that all together and revamping that ordinance. We also have the ordinance appointing Mr. James Palick, to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I would ask council to consider waiving the 3 readings. It's on the 2nd reading tonight, especially with the advent of Mrs. Grazia leaving that board now. That board will be short one more person, so getting Mr. Palick aboard would be very helpful. Doug talked about the Fox Hill change order. And then finally, we do have, and I'm not sure which number it is here on the agenda, but we do have some folks from Maroos Development here tonight to talk about, well, we'll be talking about with the resolution before council, an MOU, potential MOU for the city of Kirtland to enter in with the Maroos Development Corporation. And basically what it is, if over the course of the next 6 months, we'll have the chance to work and negotiate with the Maroos company to decide if, in fact, the project or a similar project or something along the lines of what we've seen here at the Planning and Zoning meeting a couple weeks ago is the fit for Kirtland, and I think it is. But I think there's a good opportunity to engage our residents here over the course of the next weeks and months to make sure that if we do end up moving forward and doing development here at City Hall, creating a town center, the center of gravity here, with retail and commercial, restaurants, coffee shops, living for both seniors and professionals, have office space for professionals, dental, eye doctors, lawyers, those kinds of things, finance people. I think there's a really good opportunity to actually create that downtown center here in Kirtland, which we've been hearing for about the last 15 years or so. if you look back through some of the notes and look through the Historic Town Center conversation that led to the zoning change here in downtown Kirtland, or the comprehensive plan in 2012, and most recently our surveys and our strategic planning night up at Lakeland Community College a few years back, all of these things point to this engagement with our residents and zoning boards and former councils points to the desire for more economic activity here in our downtown center, as well as residential living. So it's a great first blush at what could be here. I think they did a good job, but in order for us to kind of move forward with, in parallel with the Maroos Company, and I want to thank Mr. Ray Sankovich, who has teamed up with Maroos. Ray is a Kirtland resident, or I'm sorry, a Kirtland native, and he works on the retail and commercial leasing side of things. So I think with Ray's ties and roots here to Kirtland, as well as the Maroos name preceding itself, as well as Mr. Maroos and his vested interest in the community, I think it's a really good potential partnership. But again, this MOU is really just to give us the opportunity to work solely with Maroos to decide what project is the best, if any at all, and I think we've got a great opportunity here to see what you all think here in a few months. And I am open for any questions. I went a little bit longer than I had hoped.
Any questions for Mayor Potter? None at this time. Next up would be standing committee reports. Any committee reports to? Oh.
Soccer, football, baseball, shed back there. A multiple, 4 or 5 of them. A couple thoughts. One, that they deteriorated over time. So the committee suggested that getting together those various commissions, entities, and raising money and possibly look at it's a discussion early in this process, and something that not necessarily has been done this year or for this year's season, but we get the ball rolling, so we'll have to follow.
Thank you, Councilman Lowry. Also, I believe Mr. Fernaro would like to do a service committee meeting pertaining to the upcoming contract with Waste Management. When is that contract up? Is it November? Okay. So that would be, I believe that's Ron, Scott, and myself. What works well for you, Mr. Fernaro? What would work well for you? You want to try a Saturday or before next meeting, or?
Anything good up until noon this Saturday, but then open it after that.
Mr. Festermaker?
The thought is to get that contract back to council before we go on break.
Okay. Possibly open?
I'm open to Saturday morning.
Okay, tentatively, let's put that on for Saturday. What time? This Saturday? What time would you like to do, Joe?
I'm in at 5:30.
I should say, what time do you want to do, Ron?
Yeah, that's better, because 8 o'clock's fine for me.
8 o'clock? Let's plan that for 8 o'clock then. Denise? Service committee meeting pertaining to waste management contract.
Are we meeting here, or are we meeting at the service department?
Mr. Fernaro, would you like to meet at the service garage or over here?
Please, the service garage fires use in City Hall, so if you could come by me, that'd be great.
Okay, so here?
No.
The service garage?
Yes, please.
Okay, that service garage works, and I'll get a hold of Mr. Hamer. Thank you, Mr. Fernaro. Okay, on to, no correspondence, correct, Denise?
Correct.
Okay, public comments on matters not on the agenda. It's open to the public if anybody has any comments. None at this time. Okay, old business. Public comments on the agenda, on agenda items of old business? Any public comments on old business? Have a good evening, Mr. Grazia. No comments? On to old business? Okay, we have ordinance number 23-0-17, third reading. An ordinance amending codified ordinance section 1468.05 relating to solar energy and declaring an emergency. Need a motion?
Motion to adopt
Second.
and declare emergency.
Thank
Third
you.
reading.
Ms. Rowley?
Even though it's a third reading.
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, on to ordinance number 23-0-18, third reading. An ordinance amending codified ordinance section 1468.06 relating to geothermal energy system standards and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt and declare emergency.
Second?
Thank you. Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
On to ordinance number 23-0-22. Bear with us for a second here. We've got, these were all amended, I believe.
Yes.
And yes, we need, basically 23-0-22 through 23-0-27 have all been amended, some language changes. So we need to do an amendment on that, and then then it goes back to a second reading, and we could read up the next meeting for the third reading, correct? Okay.
I think for 27, get the big, should have some discussion.
Discussion on number, okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so, let's see, attach returns, okay. Comes up the agenda, read the ordinance, third, okay. Okay. Motion. Ordinance number 23-0-22, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance section 1024.02 relating to the installation of culverts and right-of-ways and declaring an emergency. So at this point, we should,
Motion to amend Exhibit A as provided in the email from Mr. Lallo. Some comments that I had.
oh, okay. Need a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, then that goes to the second reading then, Mr. Lobe? Okay,
We need four to amend it.
gotcha.
Take a roll call.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, on to ordinance number 23-0-23, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance section 1024.04 relating to the charges imposed upon property owners for the city's installation of culverts and declaring an emergency.
It's not really good to amend it, so. Because you just amended it, and then ask you to waive the three reading rule before you advance this. Just amend it.
You want to just go, go to
Well,
the next
Matt gave us the option if we wanted to just let it go to a third
one?
reading.
Just want to let it go to a third reading, or do you want to,
Yeah, you have that option.
Mr. Fenaro or Mr.
Mr. Fenaro,
Courtney or Mayor?
you want us to waive? Okay,
It'll be on third reading next week.
correct.
Okay.
Actually, 2 weeks. Something. Okay, do you need a motion to amend?
We already got through
Oh,
that.
did
You
you?
need to read 24 now.
Oh, okay, just on the 24, then, okay. Ordinance number 23,
Hold on.
oh, we
We amended 22.
That's correct.
That's what I just,
23, and we have to motion to, you said that had an amendment too.
correct.
So we did not read 23-023. So,
Actually, I thought I just did read 23.
No, you did 22.
Oh, okay. Okay, ordinance number 23 dash, ordinance number 23-0-23, third reading, and ordinance amending codified ordinance section 1024.04 relating to the charges imposed upon property owners for city's installation of culverts and declaring an emergency.
Motion to amend Exhibit A as per provided to council by legal Matt Lallo.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia, Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 23-0-24, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance, section 1026.03, relating to charges for work done on storm sewers by the city in lieu of property owners and declaring an emergency.
Motion to amend for Exhibit A provided by Matt Lallo to council.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 23-0-25, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance, section 1028.01, relating to driveway aprons and declaring an emergency.
Motion to amend for Exhibit A provided by legal counsel Matt Lallo.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-26, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance, section 1028.04, relating to the maintenance of driveway culverts and declaring an emergency.
Motion to amend Exhibit A as provided by legal counsel Matt Lallo.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-27, third reading, an ordinance amending codified ordinance, section 1028.05, relating to the recoupment of cost for work performed by the city on driveways and aprons and declaring an emergency. I believe we had some discussion, Mr. Schultz, on that one.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'm unable to open his red line.
Here, I got it right here, Matt. I can open it up for you. Let me find it. Yes. Okay. What was that, 23-0-27? -0-27. Bear with us here, try and open up on file form.
So what was the discussion? Yeah, 27?
You got it up? Hold on a second. Actually, I've got it right here. You have it printed up. There you go. There you go. I don't have the red line. I got it scratched up.
Yeah.
That's scratched up.
Was that? Hold on a second. Let's back up and find his original email.
I'd love to, I do.
Bear with us, folks. We're
Experiencing technical difficulties.
It's 20. It's 20. There it is. This one. 102.
Is the discussion on the actual amendment?
No, it was the language that was provided. But my recollection, and when speaking with Matt Lallo about this last Friday, was in terms of
It's a red line?
Except it's not really red.
that what you mean?
Yeah, it's not this ordinance, so I'm a little confused.
You know, hold on a second, I believe,
It was more along the lines of, if the city does a citywide project with and an apron is removed, say if it's a street widening project, if the apron's removed, the homeowner shouldn't be on the hook to pay for the replacement of the apron because it's a citywide project. And then Matt and I kind of discussed a little bit, well, if culvert pipe is under the driveway, but it's just the culverted pipe that's immediately underneath the driveway is blocked, then it falls on the homeowner, right? So, but the ordinance wasn't quite clear, and I don't believe it's.
were you, I believe I.
Mr. Schultz, I think you're looking,
22.
I think you're looking at
Okay, wanna
26.
go ahead and we could go
That was called out in 26, that the city would not be on the hook for replacing the driveway, in the driveway culvert section. So
Yeah, it was actually the 102.402.
Actually, yeah, 23-022 was the one
Yeah,
Mr. Schultz had a
I
question
thought it
on.
was 27. So that was subsection D. Yeah, we vote this one second.
Just as a point of order, I think we're, I apologize, Mr. Schultz. I think we are on number 27.
Right, so there's no point of
Let's-
discussion
let's-
for 27
Yeah,
neither.
you want 27 and 22, or?
He had, his question was on 22. He thought the discussion was going to be on 27,
Okay, so
so
let's finish up 27.
27, okay.
And then if the committee wants to get back to 22, just make a motion to reopen the discussion on 22 so Mr. Schultz can get back to it. But
Okay, and had we,
let's close the loop on 27 because
And had
that's what's
we-
before the council at this moment.
read off 23, 27, we needed a motion to amend then?
Correct.
So somebody make a motion to amend?
Okay. Motion to amend 23027 to reflect Exhibit A changes as presented by Matt Lallo.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Okay, now, did you want to go back to that or finish everything up here?
Would we have to make a motion to?
Yeah, make a motion because you already passed that in the agenda, so you got to make a motion to go back to 22 for further discussion.
Okay,
Vote on that, and then you have the discussion, and then
Okay.
close that loop, okay?
Will we close it or will we have to rescind the fact that it,
You just modify.
oh, no, it was only at the second reading.
You're
Yes.
starting up the modification because you didn't pass it, right?
did you want to further change to what the current language, to what it currently was in the amended form? Mr.
Why don't we
Schultz?
first make the motion to get back?
Okay.
to that, Okay, and then we can talk about it.
Motion to move back to, or motion to reread ordinance 23022 for discussion.
Vote on it?
Somebody second?
Second.
Rowley?
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Okay, all right, let me read, sorry, folks, thank you for your patience. In section D of 1024.02, it's installation and right-of-ways obstructions. Section D says, whenever it is necessary to remove concrete or asphalt pavement over a culvert or within a road right-of-way for purposes of either removing obstructions or widening streets or alleys in the city, there shall be no requirement on the part of the city or the State Department of Transportation to restore any such driveway with asphalt, with concrete or asphalt pavement. And honestly, I didn't think that was fair, and when I spoke to Mr. Lallo, I was like, it's part of a project, it should be included with project costs, right? If we're widening the road, if we're doing a drainage project. So what I had spoken to him about, first off, striking out was, or the State Department of Transportation, that was one portion. And then after, to restore any such driveway with concrete or asphalt pavement, comma, accepting citywide drainage projects. But I mean, we can talk about it if there needs to be another committee meeting. Because I think if it stays this way, it's not fair to the homeowner if a road is widened and their apron's taken.
Mr. Bernaro, thoughts on that, since your department will be fixing that kind of stuff?
So I read it as this is an issue we're going to, not part of a road project. So I read this, and this came out of being, there's a drive culvert that's failing, homeowner's been notified, not making the right corrections, we need to go in and do it to fix the wall, to fix the flow. So we shouldn't be responsible for the drive apron. You know, this is after numerous, giving them time to fix it, right? And nothing's being done. So that's how I take this. I don't take this as part of a road project and we're not going to pave aprons back in.
Okay. So if I wait long enough, you'll just fix it and bill me?
We're not.
That's what this is.
We weren't talking about that right now.
Okay, so let's think of it in this manner. And I understand perfectly where you're coming from. Say there's a standard ditch along a roadway, person has a culvert, city comes by and says, we're going to close this ditch because it's some type of citywide drainage program. We do that work. Then there's some type of obstruction that would cause us to remove their apron. Why would they be on the hook for that?
So if that's a citywide drainage project, I think it's tied to a project. So if we're putting that pipe in, closing that ditch, I'm pretty sure we're going to include that drive apron as part of it. Because we're there as a problem to begin with, assuming that drive culvert is part of that project.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why I put accepting citywide drainage projects. So I think are we on the same page, or am I just adding language?
This is, we're going to a problem, not part of it. We're saying the same thing, just two different ways.
Okay. Is that language acceptable to you if it was to say? Okay, because otherwise, okay.
Okay, so
We can still go to the next
okay,
reading.
go next reading. We'll go over that. Matt will.
Close that.
Hold on. Mr. Schultz, I don't have that in front of me, but you're adding another amendment to your 22 that was not approved before. Is that right? You're adding some additional words?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's adding some extra words and content. We reopened it up, so if you want to amend to include the additional amendment by Mr. Schultz, you vote on that. Okay? So it's going to be incorporated later on when it goes forward. You already amended it once. Mr. Schultz had an issue that he wanted some further language incorporated in there, and I'm going to imply that he's got a motion to amend it consistent with his additional amendment in words, and he needs a second. Then we'll vote on that.
Okay.
It's not going to be voted on tonight. We're
Right.
just amending the amendment a little further. We're refining the amendment twice,
Somebody want to put the motion forward for amending the amendment?
consistent with Mr.
And you put
Schultz's
that up already?
I'm not sure what we're amending. What are we amending?
The first time that the matter was amended, it was, according to Mr. Schultz, when he stated it, he amended it to the red line version that Mr. Lallo had put.
But there wasn't one, I don't think.
As I understand. So now Mr. Schultz voted on it, but he wanted, even on the notes, he wanted to add something to that amendment. And we went back to amend it, and I believe that there's a consensus, or at least belief, that it should be voted on to further amendment to what the additions are that Mr. Schultz has added.
Okay.
So if everybody's, Mr. Schultz, if you want to make that motion, see if you get a second, and then we'll vote to whether or not this body wants to further amend it to add those words that you incorporated so that it can be voted on at the next meeting in that form.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to amend 1024.02, Section D, striking the words "or the State Department of Transportation," and then adding at the end of the current paragraph, comma, accepting citywide drainage projects.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. Rallo.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
No.
Pass. It's a motion to amend, it passes. You only need 4, not 5. At the next meeting, of course, you're going to need at least 5 to waive the 3 reading rule if it's going back, or even for passage under emergency. But for tonight, it is simply advancing to the next meeting with the double amendments that were originally discussed and Mr. Schultz's. And then you guys can discuss it at the next meeting.
I'm going to confuse it even more. Since we amended it, it had to go back to the second meeting. Since we double amended, does it have to go back to the first meeting?
Technically, I always prefer, and I've discussed this with Matt, that I always like you to waive the 3 reading rule just
Okay.
because there's different interpretations. So you're going to need hopefully 5 to even waive the 3 reading rule next time as doubly amended, and also to get 5 affirmative votes to waive the emergency clause. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
I'll let
Libby.
Mr. Lallo handle it at the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Okay, now we could go back to 23-0-30, third reading, an ordinance adopting comprehensive general plan update for the city of Kirtland, Ohio. Was that amendment? Yes, Mr. Loby and Mayor on this one. Mayor, did you update that, or sent out the council an updated?
Yes, he did. Yes.
The ordinance.
Correct, that was 18 instead of 118? That was okay.
So it was amended, now it's just the third reading. Sorry? I can't remember if it was done during the reading or the, let's go to the minutes.
Third reading.
It was not amended at the last meeting, it was simply discussed.
So it wouldn't need a,
Correct.
It was just the
Yeah, and you said-
page number and the, okay. So that's not amended, we could go ahead with the,
yeah.
Just do it this way, so let's clear this up, so there's no
Okay.
question later on if anybody reviews it. File a motion to amend it consistent with the statements made by the mayor. You vote on that, and you
correct.
still need 4 out of 5. Then you're gonna, I take it you wanna pass it tonight?
We'll go back to a second, or go back to the
Go
third
back a
reading then?
second, you could pass
We
it.
need that passed tonight? Yeah,
We don't need it passed, but
It should be.
I guess
be passed.
why wouldn't we at this point?
Okay, well, let's do that
Go
then.
for it, I'll ask you to waive the 3 reading rule.
Yeah,
You need 5 for that, and then the motion to adopt an emergency. you need
Okay.
5 for that.
well, first we need the motion to amend, correct?
First, the motion amend.
Motion to amend 23030, which added page numbers to the document and also a ordinance or resolution number. I think it was 18R.
Instead of 118?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Now we're looking for a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Yes.
Motion to waive the 3 readings?
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Now we're looking for the motion to declare an emergency.
Motion to declare an emergency and adopt.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay. On to resolution number 23-R-32, second reading, a resolution confirming the appointment of James Palick to the Board of Zoning Appeals and declaring an emergency. I believe, Mayor, you would like that done because that's The third reading waived because that seat is currently open.
Correct, if council so
I make
chooses.
a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Motion to declare an emergency and adopt.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, on to new business. Public comments on the agenda items of new business. Any public comments? None at this time. Okay, resolution number 23R-33. We already did that at the beginning of the meeting. That was bringing Ms. Grazia in as the new councilwoman. So we go on to resolution number 23-R-34. Resolution authorizing a change order with Grade Line Incorporated for the Fox Hill Drive Drainage Improvement Project to an increased contract amount by $6,972.59 and declaring an emergency. I believe Mr. Courtney would like this waived, although 3 reading parade and passed tonight.
Yeah, I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
I'll second it.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Motion to declare an emergency and adopt.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution number 23-R-35, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding to engage with Marus Development Group LLC for the potential development of City Hall property and declaring an emergency. Did we have somebody speaking tonight then?
I think discussion's warranted on this one. So back to my original comments during my report. Again, what this development agreement, or I'm sorry, this memorandum of understanding really seeks to accomplish is to have the city work solely with Marus Development for up to the next 6 months related to potential development here of City Hall property. I think with the significant, potential costs and investment from the side of the developer, potential developer, I think it's a fair request that if they're going to, sink some money into this project or into the discovery side of this and work with us through negotiations, that we work with them related to the possible sale or development of City Hall property. So that's really what this amendment, or I'm sorry, this MOU seeks to achieve. So happy to have the discussion. We have a couple representatives here from Marus as well. I did have a chance to sit down with Councilman Fenstermaker last night, although we didn't go through the MOU. We did have a, along with Mr. Eckert, did have a good discussion with several residents that I've kind of asked to, give us their honest assessment and opinion of what this project is, what it looks like today, and the things that, elements that we'd like to see the same, different, change. So again, there will be throughout this process a lot of dialogue with the public at large, but just to get the ball rolling and to really get to a place where we can actually negotiate something, if that something does come about, this does that.
Any questions from council pertaining to this?
Mayor, what's a community entertainment district in section E?
So I think when it's something that could be potentially, considered, and I think that's why this is in here. I'll let, if Mr. Vidmar or Mr. Sine want to speak to exactly what that is. You guys have probably dealt with these a little bit more than I have, but yes, please.
My name is Mike Vidmar with Marus Development Group. Community entertainment district is just something set by Ohio, has a minimum acreage it sets some openings for creating some environment around liquor licenses and laws. It's not a requirement that we're not requiring that the city pass it. It's just that we're asking that the city be open to discussing that should we be able to negotiate and work with the COCAs, who we've already signed an agreement with, to develop their property in conjunction with our project.
Any other questions or anything else you'd like to discuss?
First of all, thanks for having us. Thank you, Chairman. Rest of council, staff.
Your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is John Sines, Director of Development, Maroos Development Group. Excited to be here. We're really looking for the MOU to proceed in a partnership of design. This was the first go around on our first stab, if you will, at this layout and the moving pieces. There are multiple pieces with the retail / commercial, the condo offices, the townhomes, the apartments. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this. This was done, this massing plan. If you guys have seen this, I can pull the boards up if you haven't, or if there's anybody from the public that hasn't seen those, we can pull those out. But it's really just, we call it a massing plan to kind of get a feel for the design elements, the major elements of the property, and kind of give a platform for discussion. So as I lean back, it's a partnership in design is what we're asking for here. We will start doing due diligence, engage in architects, engineers, things like that to start work through the due diligence of the project. And of course, there's financial responsibilities on our behalf to do that. So that's what we're asking for here tonight, is to keep the project moving, continue with neighborhood meetings, continue with staff input on the layout as we get more information in about this parcel in regards to the existing infrastructure, sanitary sewer lines. Things are going to tweak. The design's going to evolve. This is a first go. So we're looking to take the plan to the next level through concept to schematics and things like that, so we can kind of narrow down what the city's looking for and continue those discussions.
Any questions or comment? I guess my only question would be, obviously this is new for Kirtland getting a project this large. I guess that's kind of standard procedure, to allow you guys to, work for these next 6 months, to go. Is this kind of standard generally with other cities too?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a normal first step. A lot of projects are less sophisticated, less moving parts, and you can sometimes go right into a development agreement, which would be the next phase. So as we near an agreement with the city, that would be a document that would allow us to go another step and spend more money and really true up the design at that point, when there's a viable, agreed upon project.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, did you approach Maroos, or did Maroos approach you, or Mr. Eckert?
So yeah, Mr. Eckert last year, I think, and I can let you speak to this, Eddie, but had reached out to Joe Aveni, I believe it was, from Maroos Development. Kind of around the same time, Mr. Ray Sankovich had approached Eddie and myself to talk about, potential investment and development here in the city of Kirtland. And so as those conversations kind of developed between Ray and myself and Eddie and the Maroos folks, it kind of seemed like a natural fit with Ray's background in the commercial leasing side of things, to partner or to bring those two together. So it's kind of how it evolved. That was the genesis of it, and been having discussions kind of ever since. And now where we're at now.
I did skip over a very important part of my presentation. Mr. Maroos did extend his apologies. He couldn't be here tonight. He just had something he couldn't move. So
he's probably at the choir concert that I'm supposed to be at.
That could be.
With respect to the economic analysis, Mayor, is that, or an economic impact analysis, is that going to be done by a third party?
Yeah, so I think, with Eddie's work, and as we, it's pretty, I guess, easy to come up with what the retail side might bring, retail and commercial side might bring an income tax. It'll be, Eddie will be working with the county auditor's office to look and see what the future value of city property would be. Also, we'll be looking at and hearing from the folks at Maroos with regard to the townhomes or the loft apartments, whatever number that ends up being, average incomes, those kinds of things, to really try to establish the best we can what the net benefit in terms of a economic benefit will be for the city of Kirtland. So, to answer your question about a third party, I think a lot of this we can do ourselves with the input of Mr. Eckert, County Auditor's Office, Mr. Lallo, and council as well. And that's why I've asked Mr. Fenstermaker to kind of be my right-hand person in as we walk through this process. But should we need to do a little bit more or bring something in from the outside that gives us a little bit more data, so to speak, obviously this is very early in the process and we'd be open to that.
Okay, I was when you first had mentioned this type of agreement, I was curious as to why. Well, we didn't just like issue an RFP if there was thoughts of disposing of city property and trying to get the, giving the constraints and the scope of work that we were looking for to be done here, and then shopping it out. I know you guys don't like to hear that, but I would like to get competitive in this arena and
so I would say this
best deal is, right? I mean,
Mr. Schultz, I would say 100% agree with the notion that an RFP is an option. But what I would say is, reaching out and having these discussions over the course of the last however many months with the folks from Maroos, Mr. Sankovich, their partnership, and their willingness to bring in an adjoining property into the project that could really change the scale and scope and expand, how this project potentially, if it went, would end up, unveiling itself. So I think by virtue of those discussions in an RFP, I don't think the city of Kirtland would ever, be able to say, or, in my opinion, that we wouldn't be able to say in an RFP, and you must approach the neighboring property owner to bring them into a development. So I think by virtue of kind of those developments, maybe not the best word, but those developments throughout this process, I think is how we got to where we're at. And what I would say is, we look at this for 6 months, and I can tell everyone here, and I know all of you on council, and I know our legal staff, and I know Eddie Eckert, the city doesn't take a step forward on something like this without making sure that it is the absolute best for the city, that it stands to bring the most, all of what our residents have been asking for over the years, and stands to bring the most dollars in terms of an economic impact. So I think, to your question about the RFP, it's a great question. Certainly that's something that if 6 months goes by and we still want to entertain the idea, if we can't get to where we need to get to have a really good, strong agreement in favor of the city of Kirtland, then we can consider that at that point.
I got a question regarding the Coca property, because at planning and zoning, that didn't come up. And so far, everything you've put conceptual agreement or conceptual drawings has not included that property, right? So in the MRU, you stated that that's going to be part of the plan. That's why we have that in there.
We have an agreement to work with them.
Okay.
We have not engaged the architects and engineers to
Okay.
draw up a plan that merges the property. I think that is part of the evolving discussion.
Okay.
How does their property fit in with the city property,
Right.
but also how does the development work as a unified project?
Okay.
We've had really good initial cooperation and negotiations with the Cocas, but between the two groups thus far, without having the city property, the the value proposition for spending
Right.
the dollars on that are, it's not there yet. The conversation we've had so far, Chip has personally spent his money to pay for the plans and engineering designs because he really believes in this project, but expanding it and making multiple iterations on properties adjacent without first having secured an agreement on city property is, it's just not an option.
Understood. Understood.
And it
Thank
creates
you.
a huge opportunity to create those in a manner that complements both properties versus someone coming in and doing their own thing, architectural elements, style, things like that. And then it's not a cohesive development at that point. So it's kind of the pieces and parts work together type of situation.
So I know you guys touched on it, but can you just kind of summarize what next 6 months looks like?
Sure. 6 months will be a hard dive into existing conditions, diving in with Lake County Utility Department. That's their pump station down there, the gravity main coming up, the force main coming up, the gravity going out, making sure there's capacity for the sewer, which sounds like there is, working with Mr. Courtney. Developing plans a little farther. It's a massing plan, so we'll get a little closer to schematic plans where we can start to get public interest, market things for Ray, so we can start seeing end users, best use, start doing our market performas to make sure the project is viable, so we can start negotiations into the value of this land and the negotiations for the sale and what that looks like and the package of that. So it'll be, and I had a conversation with civil engineering firm and Pay2 Architects who did the massing plan. They are already developing proposals that we would engage them to take the next steps in design. And then it would be a whole lot of these meetings. You'll see a lot of me as we go back and forth, kind of discussing what the city wants to see with this project, what we can do to help with ODOT road widening to get that city feel that we discussed, that downtown district, all those things. It's just a lot of talking, a lot of going back to the architects, say tweak this, we'll represent that, some work sessions, and just kind of go through all of that. It protects us a little bit because we're going and spending significant dollars to evaluate this project.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, finally, that was it for new business? Or-
Joe?
No? Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, please.
That's right, we did,
If
we need a motion?
Just passed?
We need that
I make a
pass
motion
today?
to waive the
Okay.
three readings.
Second.
Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schulz,
No.
Mr. Smolek,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Motion declaring an emergency?
Oh, I make a motion to, I'm
Declare an emergency and adopt.
I make a motion to adopt and
Declare it.
declare an emergency. Thank you. Sorry, I was done. Sorry.
Second.
Right, I got some questions. So in here, well,
Go ahead.
you can ask for discussion now.
Oh, go ahead for any
I'm
discussion.
sorry, just related to section F, I mean, just seeing this for the first time, I mean, trying to understand a TIF or a tax abatement, and how the schools would feel about that. Well, it's amenable to both parties. Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Scholl's, that language is in there because projects like this often, have those discussions around them. So, but none of this says the city of Kirtland's going to commit to A, B, or C, right? So I guess it's just language that kind of establishes the foundation or some of the tenets of what might come about through discussions and negotiations, I would say. Fair characterization of what that was intended for.
Denise, I'd like to change my vote to a yes, please. I can do that, Mr. Murphy, at this point? Yep, thank you.
It's up to the president.
Usually,
You want to go? Amend the, hold on,
We'd have-
to change your,
Matters on the
Oh, that's
agenda.
right.
And in the agenda right now, we request to go back again, but we're already beyond it. So if you want to let them talk, you're going to have to,
just push forward.
council president can make the motion to amend to go back to the public portion if you want to, if you
Okay.
want. Let's pass through it.
yes, if you want to,
There is continuing concerns as well on the agenda.
Let them come up with continuing concern.
Agreed.
Let's just
Okay.
move forward.
go back.
Nope, move
go
forward.
back.
We'll go
Go
forward.
on, oh, go forward, okay. Okay, now we're on to, hold on, we got the, do we need a,
You said motion to declare an emergency.
second? Okay.
Yeah.
Ron,
For
Ron,
declare an
second.
emergency.
I second.
Yeah, declare an emergency and adopt. Okay, Ms. Rowley?
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
Okay, and we come to council comments on matters not on the agenda. Any council comments? Not at this time. Continuing concerns. Any continuing concerns?
Mr. Smolik, and I know that Mr. Godwin would like to say something, but I did forget something in my report. There is a purchase agreement in place for the property on the northwest corner of 6 and 306 for a significant health care establishment, and that myself and Mr. Courtney, Mr. Finaro, Mr. Eckert will be also engaging Lake County Department of Utilities to, a project like that would necessitate package plant sewers, that kind of thing, to go forward. So we will be definitely having the conversation around that project here. They'll probably come to planning and zoning in June as a concept, but I did want to I mentioned to Councilman Fenstermaker last night that there is a purchase agreement on that property, and we'll be doing some discovery on our end.
Thank you, Mayor. And who else wanted, did you say somebody wanted to speak? What?
Oh, is this good?
But say that thing.
Aaron Godwin, 10299 Longview Drive, Kirtland. I just think it might be beneficial to have comment from council about the process. I'm actually in support of the investigation. I want to be very clear about that. But I think when it's because of the potential implications with city property, I think it would be beneficial to have an overview for the public about what the process would be so it doesn't get ahead of the public. That's just my request.
100% in agreement with you, Mr. Godwin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Everybody in favor?